Hey, what is up mortals? It is BubblyNami here, with a new video for you. Welcome to part 6 of What If Deku Started with Black Whip. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. Quiet sobs escaped from Kota's clenched teeth. Teary-eyed, he looked uncertain, steps backwards nearing the edge of the lookout point he so fondly used as his hideout. Glancing over the edge, he began to realize just how up he was. For the first time, and he obviously didn't want to fall from here, but the huge masked man in front of him wasn't given an option, and so he inched closer, and so slowly and menacingly it struck Kota with fear. Muscular planned to use this elevated surface as a lookout point to spot prey they'd been assigned to, but he was quite surprised to find someone unaccounted for here, and a small child nonetheless. Starting small chit-chat, he complimented Kota's hat, saying he'd prefer it to his mask. Maybe it'd divert people's eyes from his hideous scar if he wore it. Well, Kota obviously didn't look like he wanted that compliment. He'd probably prefer help. Muscular sure took his time to slowly remove his mask as he spoke. To Kota it seemed like a window of opportunity for him to escape. Turning heels, he started his hopeless run in the opposing direction, aiming to scurry down the rocky plain. But no less than a second, the hooded male lunged ahead of him, his face on full display. With unkempt short blonde hair, sharp jawlines, a grotesque scar marked his face, spanning his hairline down to his mouth, cutting across his left eye that was odd, and in the left socket was a prosthetic eye, much smaller than his right eye, surrounded by thick flesh, probably taking a place of his former due to injury. Kota knew this face all too well. He had burned it in his memory with hate. The criminal who has murdered his parents stood in front of him.
Running? No. The fun's just begun,
Muscular said, extending his left arm. From his wrist, thick fibers of muscle began to grow, creeping up his arm until it engulfed in a thick, strong layer of flesh. The villain clenched his fist as he shot downwards, aiming to crush the boy with sheer force and strength. "Black Whip, bind mode!" a voice from behind yelled. Dark rope-like object shot out around Muscular's waist. Yanking him backwards, his blow missed wildly, crushing the earth instead of Kota as he lurched back. Midoriya grasped the tendrils tightly. Pulling simultaneously, he leaped forward high and over Muscular, avoiding collision with the monolith frame. Loose debris flew from the blow all around with air pressure. Midoriya had to close his eyes slightly so they wouldn't get into them. "Are you okay?" Midoriya asked Kota, landing beside him with a sense of urgency in his tone. This was bad. He hadn't bargained to meet a villain up here. He had to escape with Kota quickly. He was at a huge disadvantage here. His quirk mainly for capturing creativity. He had worked his way into using it for mobility and mild offense, but he knew in his gut it wasn't suited to match the strength the villain had displayed. Reinforcements was a no-go, as his phone flew cleanly out of his loose short pockets down into the forest below. And no one knew where he was at the moment. He had to think of something, and quickly.
You think you can protect him?
Muscular scoffed, looking at Midoriya, who had taken a bold stand to confront him.
Well, since I can kill you, show me your best!
Muscular yelled, throwing aside his hood, now only in a tank top. The fibers around his left arm that flailed loosely retracted back into his arm. The villain crouched slightly, clenching his arm, he covered it in those thick muscles. Leaping towards Midoriya with great speed, he aimed a blow squarely in front of the lad. But Midoriya was prepared. He had to be twice on alert. While he planned, subduing Muscular would take more than he had at the moment. Muscular took off. Midoriya timed him just some seconds before he came close enough. He ducked low below the blow, aiming his hand upwards. Tendrils shot out, strapping around Muscular's arm and restraining him. Afterwards, he planned to follow up, sliding between his legs. He'd take his arm along and turn the villain inside out. But before he got low enough, Muscular instinctively buried his right knee into Midoriya's jaw, kicking him upwards. Pulling back his bulky arms, the strings tore as if they were made of paper. He brought his hand forward just as quickly, shoving his open palm into the boy's chest, sending him crushing into the rock side of the lookout with a large crater. Midoriya screamed in pain. Slumped against the wall, his jaw was badly bruised. It felt as if it was fractured, and he was sure that shove had cracked a few of his ribs. Blood trickled down the side of his lips. which he weakly wiped away with his arm, groaning even if he hadn't gotten caught. He surely wouldn't have been able to pull Muscular under, with the way he'd easily tore the binds of Black Whip. Bakugo? What could they want with Bakugo? Midoriya wondered to himself, as Muscular asked of his classmate, but he didn't have long to dwell on that, as Muscular charged again, with even greater speed. Black Whip! Gun mode! Dark Bullet! Folding his hand to mimic a child's playmate gun, Midoriya focused Black Whip, shooting a small detached portion shaped like a bullet. It flew with great celerity. He had aimed the blob at Muscular's eye to throw him off balance, but with untrained marksmanship, and his bullets was slightly off of trajectory, but still managed to catch the villain's attention. Muscular slowed down a bit, swatting the bullet away with the back of his hand. He seemed quite cautious. He didn't want his right eye to be prosthetic as well.
Going for my weakness, eh? Smart. But not enough!
Muscular yelled. He had slowed down but not stopped, aiming to smash Midoriya further into the wall, but came short. Midoriya had used the bullet to buy a window of opportunity to lunge to the side, making up for the speed he lacked and avoiding death for now, at least. On the sidelines, Kota watched the fight, sobbing loudly. Now he wondered why Midoriya would come to save him, even though this battle was clearly one-sided. He prayed someone would show up to help Midoriya, or Midoriya would wisen up and run.
You know, you're fighting a clear losing battle. It's obvious my quirk overwhelms yours in every possible aspect. But you keep pressing like you think you actually have a chance with those puny ropes of yours. This is what I hate about heroes. Always thinking they'll come out on top. But now, you're gonna die. So it's all good.
Muscular said with a sadistic tone to his voice, obviously enjoying every bit of this. He crouched low, muscle fibers wrapping and strengthening his legs, that now bulged out of his pants. His feet creating craters on the ground as they dug deep. He dashed at Midoriya with blinding speed, faster than the boy could react. Springing above the ground slightly, Muscular twisted his torso and unraveled himself, his left leg taking the lead, turning and driving it into Midoriya's shoulder. The kick sent him crashing into the rocks, with a huge crater yet again. Pain seared his whole being, his body crying in agony, gashes on his face and arms bleeding profusely, and the shoulder he was kicked on definitely had its bones fractured. He couldn't even feel it anymore. His eyesight blurred, he had slammed body and all into the wall, and now he was barely breathing, all the air in his lungs driven out forcefully. Midoriya began to fade, almost like his heart stopped. His frame slowly dropped down to the hard ground with a huge thud. Muscular walked over to him gingerly, with a smile plastered to his face. He'd relish finishing the boy off as slowly as he could, to derive utmost pleasure from it. It was his first kill on being released by the League of Villains. He'd make it memorable, so to speak. Small streams of water spurted, hitting Muscular's head harmlessly. As it drenched his hair, Kota stood afraid, but mustered courage to attack. You killed my parents, he stuttered with fear, tears streaming down his cheeks.
Oh? Them?
Muscular said, his memory jogged as Kota recalled the incident. The villain smiled just as the thought of the heroes who had injured his eye. He held no grudge against them. That wasn't why he killed them. He was merely fulfilling his part in killing, and Kota's parents trying to do their job in preventing him got killed in the process.
So, there aren't any hard feelings, but you'll have to wait your turn. I'll kill you, just as soon as I'm done with him,
Muscular said to Kota. His words cut short as he was about to turn to refer to Midoriya, who was on the ground at least. That was where he was before, but now he was just inches away from a shocked Muscular. With his teeth clenched, Midoriya fought through the pain, balling the fist of his good arm. I can't hope to beat him with Black Whip. I need something stronger. I need strength, Midoriya thought to himself, his fierce will glowing from his eyes as he flew with everything he had. His thoughts crossed to All Might, and his mighty blows. That was what he needed. No, it is what he wanted. One for all, Midoriya thought seemingly, searching the depths of himself. With burning desire, he called to the power he had come to take as his own, now in his time of need. And then he saw it, a vision, flashing across his very eyes. In an infinite darkness, light traveled a distance, changing colors as it did until it shone very brightly. Just up ahead was a male standing in the midst of the abyss. Midoriya knew who he was. The first user's. His hand was outstretched, and floating above it was a bright light, brighter than anyone before.
It's yours now. Take it,
his voice said, and the light began to shine brighter, engulfing the entire space. Instantaneously, energy poured into his being, one he hadn't felt before. It was so overwhelming, it surged through him so much that red lines of energy emanated across tightly clenched fists, and a feeling of nostalgia swept over him. One he'd experienced while watching All Might's fight all those years ago. The quirk that could stockpile power was now his.
Huh? You think that puny punch is gonna do anything?
Muscular said mockingly, willing to take the brunt of the punch at first, but something felt odd, almost like the boy was going to use something he had been holding back. His instincts read absolute danger, and quickly his arm came up to guard.
Detroit Smash!
Midoriya yelled. Wind pressure compressed all around his fist and released on impact, as he drove his fist into Muscular's arm that was held up as a guard. The villain tried to brace for the attack but got carried away with the force, hurling into the rock and a landslide of rocks falling on him. The air pressure exploded everywhere, almost sending Kota off the edge, save for Midoriya's quick reflexes, fastening the boy with the tendril before he flew over the edge. You did it! What was that? Kota said, looking at Midoriya confused. He didn't understand how he possessed explosive strength like that, in contrast to his whip quirk. But either Midoriya didn't hear his question, or he was too tired to explain himself. Obviously it was both. His breath came out ragged, his clothes torn all over his right arm, which was badly charred and slightly mangled, with his bones broken, a huge side effect from releasing such power. He felt pain all over, but was too tired to even scream. His eyes stayed half open, and his mouth hanging open as he gasped for air. Let's go back to the camp, he managed to say, urging Kota.
Ugh, you sure did a number on me, boy. If I didn't have this quirk, I'd been a goner. Lucky these fibers were able to tank the effects. It seems you were holding back something else from me. Well, so was I. I'm gonna come at you with my full force and kill you,
Muscular said, rising from the rubble, as angrier than ever. A large mass of muscle fibers escaped from within him, wrapping him in a huge layer of flesh, like a suit as he roared, leaping at Midoriya.
How is he standing?
Midoriya wondered. He had struck with all the force he had, but it still wasn't enough to put him down, and he was already past his limit. Was this where his story would end?
No,
he answered himself. Clearing those thoughts, he'd protect Kota like a true hero would, like All Might would, with a smiling face. His lips slowly arched into a smile as he managed to clench his charred fist. Don't worry, Kota. I'll protect you. Muscular sailed towards him, now engulfed and balled in a mountain of flesh, barreling into Midoriya. Coursing the new power he gained into his fist, Midoriya collided his hand into the flesh, halting Muscular's progression forward. Torrents of wind escaping from between them, crushing the landscape as Midoriya's feet dug deep below the earth. But Muscular was gaining the upper hand. His entire weight bearing on Midoriya, he began to crush him down into the ground quickly.
Is this all you got? This the hidden power you have? It's quite the letdown,
Muscular yelled from somewhere within the fleshy mound. I won't give up! Midoriya screamed, his eyes wide, tears streaming from them. He had to think fast, or within seconds, he'd be ground beef, literally. Just from the corner of his eye, he saw something, spacing between the fibers of muscles. The muscles had slight space within each layer. That was it. Maybe Black Whip. His thoughts trailed off as his back bent so far it touched the earth. I won't hold back any power. I'll have to use Black Whip at full power as well. Quickly with his free fractured arm, he focused his other quirk, Black Tendril, shooting out rapidly with their power unrestricted onto the fibers. With his mind, he guided the tendrils as they forced their way into the spaces between the muscles. Pain bubbled within his entire body, the burden far too great. as he was simultaneously unleashing the top percent of both quirks. His body sizzled and burned with steam, leaving his skin and blood gushing from every wound he had. He roared, pushing past his limit, as the whips began to branch themselves, multiplying and seeping into the slight crevices between the muscles.
What the heck?
Muscular said, confused, but the plot was already set. Now! Midoriya yelled, pulling back the arm, and along with the pull, the might of Black Whip tore the end-to-end attachment of the muscles, opening up a clear path to the awestruck Muscular. Let's end this, Midoriya said. With the power he unleashed, he knew he could potentially kill Muscular. He had to reduce his output to say 15%, and like magic his body responded. He felt the energy surge dropping, and he pulled back his fist. Smash! Midoriya roared, drawing in as he delivered a heavy blow to Muscular's jaw, knocking out a lot of his molars, as it sent him blasting into the rocks again, with a big crater, but this time, he'd stayed down for good. I did it. Midoriya said, trying to make his way to Kota. His insides felt like they were melting. Numerous bones were shattered, and he had lost a lot of blood. All he saw was red before he dropped to the ground. Hey, thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We the Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I would like to extend our invitation to join the team. The only caveat being, we only accept members 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So, thank you all for watching, and have a great day.